Thunder Theory here has written a 20 freaking page document explaining their thoughts on Genesys that kind of took some traction. So we're gonna have a little gander at it here and see what's going on. Essaying. And here we begin. After 200 matches of Genesys format, and currently ranked 2 on Dueling Book. That's pretty good, by the way. Here's my overall thoughts. The format is, in my opinion, fun and provides the opportunity to deck build. As a pleasant surprise that doesn't change even after 200 matches. There's a wide variety of decks to experiment with, and some of which were initially perceived worse than they actually are, like Mitsurugi, which is usually a sign for an interesting format. Because the basis of for Genesys works, I want to share what I believe to be improvements to the format. The key aspect on Genesys is that actually a few, decks are still too strong going first. Ooh. Too strong going first still is a crazy thing to say for Genesys, the format that's supposed to not be that strong. Yeah, I think, like, Genesys did, like, lower the power level a lot, but ultimately, like, there's still going to be, like, outliers. Hopefully they address them, but also the problem is, or what the potential problem is we haven't had Genesys format with released, like, new cards, yet. So whenever the next big tier 0 Malice, Dracotail, Yummy equivalent deck is released a few months from now or whatever that might be, if Konami don't release the deck pointed, then that's going to cause issues for balance. Because they did specifically mention in their blog they're probably not going to point new cards. So we haven't experienced that just yet, like a core set release for Genesys. So that's not something we've got experience with. We did with Dude. Well, the problem is that Dude didn't really have enough cards in it to, or didn't have a powerful enough deck to really justify hitting anything. So that's not really the point I'm making here. It's that when we get the next tiered, you know, meta deck, could be a potential problem. As we've experienced too many times, becomes an abs. As we've experienced too many times in the current format, if you don't draw hand traps or an unlikely ratio of non-engine breakers and strong engine, your chances of winning going second becomes so low, becomes an absolute sensation every time someone pulls off a win anyway. You might enjoy or dislike this dynamic, both are reasonable perspectives, but the goal of Genesys must be to provide a different experience and change this up. That's a very good point. Like, the argument for modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is almost always centered around, like, you have to balance your deck with defensive cards, non-engine, starters, extenders, and it's a very formulaic way, almost in a way, to deck build in Advanced. If Genesys is trying to provide something a little bit more different, then it can't really just be modern format, but, like, less powerful. Which I suppose in one way is, like, kind of the goal, but it should at least, like, try be somewhat different. Which, I mean, I guess it is because there's no link monsters, so I guess it's a tough way to interpret. It's just like a balancing act that's completely subjective in the sense of, like, okay, well, we want Genesys to be lower power, but where do you put that on a scale? If Modern Advanced format has a power level of 10, do we want Genesys to be 7? Do we want it to be, like, 3? Right? So that's a very subjective thing that I guess they pick for us. So, you know, either a different dynamic or a similar dynamic to Modern, but just less. I guess there's 2 ways to approach this. Currently, this goal is not achieved adequately. While yes, many decks are severely worse at going first, almost every deck is also worse going second. That means that if Onomat, Radiant Typhoon, Goblin, Vine Crystal, Mitsurugi, Blackwing, and Blackwing's meta? If they go first, you can pack it up. It's basically impossible to break those fully established boards unless you open very specific hard counters post-siding. So in my impression, overall combo decks must be nerfed. When I play Genesys, I want to be able to play the game no matter if I lose the dice roll or not. On a different note, that also means new decks must be allocated points immediately on release. Otherwise, they will completely dominate existing, already nerfed decks. Contradicting one of the main appeals of Genesys, your old decks become more competitive. Since decks are still so powerful when going first in this format, it is good Flying Sea is accessible to every deck and doesn't cost points, though it should be allocated points. Okay, so there's a little bit to break down here. First and foremost, Thunder Theory seems to have a big issue with, like, Genesys being still too high power level going first. But I don't like that they're offering a solution of like, oh, it's good that Flying Sea is accessible to every deck. Like, I don't think turn-ending auto-win hand traps in the side deck should exist in the first place. Like, that's really, like, my personal view of a balanced game is I don't want someone to just insta-win off of one card. The side deck is particularly egregious for these types of things. That's why they put barrier at like 100 points and all this kind of stuff. So I'd really rather these kind of things don't exist. Flying Sea when no links exist is fucked. I mean, yeah, like that card is just broken if you open it into the right matchup, you know? Also going first card. True. If combo decks are nerfed because it's a card that inherently defies a main driver for Genesys, which is that you're allowed to play your cards. A card that simply says no to your entire strategy, like Flying Sea does, generates the same frustrating experience. Oh, okay, wait. Oh, I guess they literally said that in the next tweet. We face in advanced format. In terms of specific decks, it is obvious Vanquish Soul has to receive additional points. So, funnily enough, this was posted 3 days ago, and the blog post was yesterday or last night. So they literally said we're going to nerf Vanquish Soul. So big W from Konami's communication. They literally said, yeah, we're going to nerf Vanquish Soul. So that's good. Snow Devil protecting your Vanquish Soul monsters for... Okay, so a lot of this is kind of dated, I suppose, at this point, but I'm sure there'll be other stuff outside of Vanquish Soul. I wonder what Thunder Theory thinks about Vanquish Soul getting nerfed then. If they think it's still going to be viable with whatever changes they... Well, I guess we'll have to see the ban list on Monday. Snow Devil protecting your Vanquish Souls from destruction becomes very obnoxious. Much of the removal available in Genesis is restricted to destruction as opposed to advanced, where you can always link monsters into SP or even Unicorn. Many decks have no choice but to rely on their engine to out the opponent's board, but many archetypes can only destroy monsters. The issue is if you don't out the VS board, you're immediately dead next turn. My wish, treat the deck like Dracotail and make it so that they have to make concessions to even play the full engine. Holy Suit 20 points, Raisin 10, Mad Love 10. You could easily still play the deck, but consisting non-engine get hurt a bit. The next deck that seems too oppressive is Radiant Typhoon Goblin. What is Radiant Typhoon Goblin? Similar to Yummy Mitsu in Current, you simply throw these two engines together and get the best of both worlds, resulting in around 8 disruptions, i.e. Xyz Armor Package, Goblin Xyz, MST Trap that negates, and the Typhoon boss monsters. The board is unbreakable with engine. Some adjustment to the Goblin cards, Radiant Typhoon or Terror Top should do the job. Close behind that would be Archmage. It's cool that this deck has a chance to see top tier playing Genesis, and it's not as oppressive as Vanquish Soul or Radiant Typhoon. Still, some points would make it so that they can't full combo you and Ashen Droll you on top when you already have to fight an uphill battle going second. So this is like the weird paradox, right? Because, how do you word this? So if you point Genesis in a way where you have to make concessions with playing a powerful engine, then it means that you get less access to staples. So theoretically, if you were to spend all of your points to play your archetype, maybe it should total something like 100 or 90 plus, right? But now you don't get access to like Imperm or Veiler or Ash because they have fairly... They're not that high, but, you know, they have costs associated with them. Now, the problem is that if you nerf engines if you nerf the engines of decks to the point that you basically don't give them room to play staples, is that really like a good approach? Is that really a good solution? Because I feel like it's not going to make the deck very... I feel like it's going to significantly struggle going second. Which circles back to the main problem, doesn't it? Which is, oh, going second in Genesis is still too difficult. So when they go first, you're still going to have the same problem. Right? It just doesn't feel like higher points to push out non-engine really fixes the issue. It's just a case of some decks just have too good end-board pieces.
Brazil!
So the solution in my mind maybe isn't like, you know, Holy So needing more points. Maybe it's like some of the end-board pieces need more, right? Like, I don't think starters and extenders should be quite heavy. I think like the end board should probably get more points. Like, fuck it, if Full Armored Xyz is, like, actually meta in Genesis, then maybe those cards need more points. Maybe, unironically, we have to drop Nibiru's points or something. Maybe we have to increase the points of, well, definitely some Mitsu cards need higher points, 100%. In general. I can't believe Habakiri is 0. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, I know the spell is 60, but, like, Habakiri is, like, why is Habakiri 0 points, you know? But I do think, like, keeping hand traps high is good, because I don't think you should have the best of both worlds. That was the Art Mage section. Some individual cards deserve more points. In current format, Dimension cards are too cheap. Shifter still skips turns regardless. I don't even know why this is a card. I don't know, like, who even designed this and said it was okay in the first place, but it is baffling to me that Dimension Shifter is, like, what is it currently? 10? 15 or something? Like, holy crap, dude. Make that card, like, 50. It skips turns regardless of how much it is being played, and Dimensional Fissure has no business being... Are you serious? Di-Fi is also 0? Bro, any Banished deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Can just play 3 Di-Fi in the side deck, and now it just has an auto-win Floodgate when it goes first. I mean, why is... Who thought that was okay? Haven't seen many singular cards that seemed way too cheap. Droll is controversial, but heavily depends on how the first point I wrote about will be handled. I don't like Droll. I've never liked Droll. I don't think Droll is a healthy card. I think that card should be more expensive. Haven't seen many singular cards that seemed way too cheap. Droll is controversial. As many players pointed out, there are countless cards that either deserve less or, in rare cases, even no points at all. Tenyi Ishuna, Sword Soul cards, Bonfire, Baldric. Okay, I don't think Bonfire should be 0, but Auxilla, Levineer, Chaos Space, Cornfield, Pancratop, some of the Glad Beast cards, Nadir Servant, maybe some tiers could probably all be lower. You're walking on some eggshells there, buddy. In the end, Genesys is a lot of fun. I'm having a great time, and it could have been even greater with some of these changes. And whether or not this format succeeds heavily, if not solely, depends on how the point list is being handled, though. But so far, so good. Hopefully some of these suggestions can be implemented. Okay, so this is my visualization for how this is, like, playing out, right? It's you've got, like, essentially this, like, scale here of you know, power measured into, like, I don't know, random number, let's say power integer of 10, right? And then you've got, like, all of the various different decks, like Vanquish Soul, like Mitsu, you got Radiant Typhoon. I can't seem to get it over here. Radiant Typhoon, and it's like... So this is the option that they have with this format. Either they can nerf the engine in such a way where... Because currently the way Vanquish Soul works is, like, arguably compared to TCG... It's not that much less powerful of an end board than TCG. It doesn't have Rock of the Vanquisher. So if TCG Vanquish Soul is like a 10, then maybe, like, you know, in Genesis format, if TCG is a 10, then I don't know, what would you say Vanquish Soul is in Genesis compared to TCG? Like an 8? Like, it's not that much weaker. You know? Like a 9? Like, it's not really missing that much in terms of its power. So philosophically, I think Konami have to, like, realize people aren't looking to play TCG format with Genesis. They're looking to play a lower powered format. So Vanquish Soul in Genesis, by default, out the gate, should be ideally, in my opinion, dropped to, like, I don't know, like a 7 or something, right? Maximum. You know, is kind of like where I think it should probably fall, right? And I guess that just sort of comes to, like, the design intention for this format. What are they trying to do? Do they want Genesis to just be TCG that's just different? Or do they want it to be a genuinely lower power deck, lower power format? Vanquish Soul is stronger in Genesis than it ever was in TCG. I wouldn't say ever. I'd say like, you know, K9 Vanquisol with Holisu, like that was pretty crazy. But functionally, well, not comparatively, Vanquisol and Genesis is probably like up there. So in the context of Genesis format, Vanquisol is like really, really good. So do they want to make do they want like Genesis format to be TCG2, or do they want a generally lower power format? This is my opinion. I think if TCG is a 10, then Genesis should just be a 5. Right? That's what I think. I think no deck should be anywhere close to like 8 disruptions, 9 disruptions. And they mentioned a lot in the blog posts and stuff when they were talking about usage of cards and all that kind of stuff. They do really need to set a baseline, and they do really need to set like a precedent for where they want the format to be established. I think if your deck is putting up legitimately this many disruptions in a Genesis format, that's not okay. Like, this format was not supposed to be like this. This format, I mean, it's very subjective, I guess, but I think even Konami themselves specifically stated, we want this to be lower power format. We want this to be a format where people can maybe think about their deck building and stuff a little bit more compared to TCG, and also be a little bit more interactive. You're just not having interaction if you go first with a full power Genesis deck, like a top tier Genesis deck. So yeah. All right, good thread by Thunder Theory. And hopefully Konami give us some very nice big surprises on Monday.